Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
Right, Joe, we've got the board out again, Saturday Social whiteboard. What's the plan?
Yeah, lots of talking points over the last week about transfers, whether they've been successful, whether they've not been successful. So what we've done is we've selected a number of the most talked about players online that moved this summer. We're going to ask you guys to put them into either hit or miss so far at their new club. OK, if there's any disagreement between you guys, me and Smithy are going to make the selection based on the best argument put forward. Now, obviously, we haven't been able to include every single transfer that happened in the summer, so these are kind of the most talked about ones online, the ones that have been the most controversial or the best. Should we start big?
Start with the best.
Go on, then.
Declan Rice. What
Best signing of the summer for you?
I think it's a sensational signing, completes the squad. I think the big thing as well, with his position, he can play in that deeper role that we saw he did against Manchester City, double pivot, City pressed high, left-back coming inside, won the game. This guy, man of the match against Manchester United, man of the match against Manchester City, in my opinion. A sensational bit of business.
I think an absolute machine, honestly. One of the best bits of business. I think sometimes, I always say, you almost forget the fee when a player actually delivers and performs so well. And I think early on, I haven't heard a single person mention his fee, which is a testament to that. Absolute hit, in my opinion.
It's a good point, that, actually, because a lot of people were talking about the high fee at the start, and he was actually asked about that recently, and it's a very good point that a lot of people aren't mentioning now because of the impact he's having on the pitch. Yeah. Top player, top bloke as well, Declan Rice. I think we can all agree it's hit. Next up, who have we got here? Another Arsenal player.
Kai Havertz. This one's a tough one. I think it will be a hit, but at the moment, I'd probably say it's a miss.
The noise that came out of you?
Yeah, I'm going complete miss, in my
Complete
opinion.
miss.
I think there will be games and moments where he does obviously contribute because he is a good player, let's not get twisted, but 65 million, knowing and seeing what you got at Chelsea, I don't think you're really going to get much more at that at Arsenal. And I said the biggest concern for Arsenal this season is that he undoes the midfield work that they've kind of built and the kind of harmony, trying to force him into that midfield. But now, obviously, he's playing a false nine. But personally, I don't see him as a great goal scorer either. So
I think his versatility, though, adds a little bit to that Arsenal squad. You know, the fact he can play as a nine, he can play as a midfielder as well. Like, despite the fact the fee was big, that kind of covers multitude of different positions.
I get the versatility if I thought he specialises in something. The issue is I don't know what he specialises in. He's great at picking up in spaces, but his hold-up play is OK. His finishing is not world-class. His link-up play isn't the best in the world. So, for me, I think he just needs to find that kind of special thing that kind of makes him and kind of use that to whatever position Arteta's going to play in. But in my opinion, I'd say it's a miss.
Okay.
He's a super unique player, though, that there's spaces where he finds, you know, such a good dynamic in certain phases of play. He needs to improve his finishing on the right side of the box. I looked at his shot map like last year, and it was very, very left-sided. If he works on that right side, it'd be great. But yeah, a miss. The only big thing with that is the last two games, what, a goal and an assist?
Yes.
Been directly involved in more goals than Szoboszlai and Mudryk. So, again, a miss, but I think he'll be a hit at the end of the season.
Next up, who you got?
Joao Pedro.
Yeah.
Big Joao Pedro. I think it's got to be a hit, right? His talent is there, his ability. He will improve under De Zerbi. De Zerbi's taken him out of the team because his work rate wasn't quite there, not enough tackles and interceptions. But he's a centre-forward. He's there to score goals. I think long-term it's a great sign. I think it's something for the future. It's just a very Brighton signing, right?
Already scored 5 goals as well.
Brighton's top scorer in all comps this season.
Yeah, very calm over the penalty in Marseille too. Big moment. I think he looks fantastic.
100%. And I think stepping up from the Championship Watford, where he kind of made his name there, and now coming into this Brighton team where I feel like he's just going to take another step. Absolute hit.
Once again, as well, you've got to say £30 million Brighton. I mean, they just get the recruitment right, don't they? The club. Unbelievable. Next up, speaking of Brighton, you got a player that left Brighton.
Moises Caicedo. Lot of money.
Huge money.
At the moment, we're not seeing the Caicedo at Brighton. We're not seeing that player that's dominant, that wins the ball back, that controls the tempo. Saying that, I would put him in the same position as Declan Rice in terms of he's a lot of money, young, talented. When they get it right, we'll stop talking about the fee.
Absolutely. I think he's a quality player. I think even in the last couple of games, I know they've been easier opposition, you're seeing him start to come into it and come into himself. I think he's going to be quality. I think he's got all the attributes to be a top Premier League centre-mid. The physicality. His passing range is actually underrated as well, in my opinion. But I think complete midfielder. And
you're both big fans of Moises and Declan, and you compared them yourself. So who's got a higher ceiling, do you think, out of Declan and Moises, Statman?
I'll be honest, I think I look at Rice and I'm like, I think he's just special, honestly. What he's done so far, you look at from West Ham when he broke through, he was a centre-back. People were saying, oh, can he make the crossover to midfield? And every year on year, the improvement this guy has shown, then taking over the captaincy from Mark Noble, then leading them to a
Champions League.
to the Conference League, sorry.
Yeah. It's the same thing, come on.
But yeah, to West Ham, essentially it is. But then now moving to Arsenal and just taking it to like a duck to water, I don't know what his ceiling is.
I'd say the growth and the development and how he's added different things to his game over the years. Yeah, definitely Declan Rice.
Another Chelsea signing up next. Much talked about the goalkeeper position at Chelsea.
Robert Sanchez. I'm going to say miss because they missed out on their main target.
Yeah.
Mignon from AC Milan would have really, really made Chelsea a dominant side from front to back. He is one of the best keepers on the planet. Sanchez feels like they've kind of bought him because they haven't got their first option.
Yeah.
He's been solid, though, since he's arrived,
again,
I think his save rate is very, very...
He's been very solid.
Really high.
Really solid player, good out the back. But I just think Chelsea wanted a superstar keeper again, I felt, in the market. And they didn't get that.
You almost feel like he's a stopgap in a sense.
Yeah.
Because as soon as kind of the market does open, I imagine they will look for someone better. But he did get dropped at Brighton as well, so who knows?
Okay. 75% save ratio by then in the Premier League this season. Only 2 keepers with better. Incidentally, Bukayo, top save percentage
Quality.
of
Can't
any
do the stats
goalkeeper.
now. We're waiting for that one later on.
Okay, sorry, I do apologise. Writing it out.
OK.
Next up, Cole Palmer. I think a little bit too expensive. I think
You're saying miss.
City, great value, 45 million quid for Cole Palmer, academy player that they've sold to a rival. I think it is good. City have got a lot of depth in those positions. They constantly, get these. Oscar Bobb's the latest one that's come in that's very similar. You play all across the front line. So I think it's a bit of a miss just because of the Chelsea squad doesn't quite make sense with him in there. Saying that, though, the last 2 games have been really good.
Yeah.
Where would you have him, Fuad?
I would have him as a hit because I think just the upside of Cole Palmer, for me, I think is a quality player. Right winger, he could play as a 10, technically so sound. And I think the thing with Chelsea's squad is they're all very young at the moment. And there's going to be guys who are going to kind of stamp their claim. And I feel like he actually could be one of those. Coming in from the City team, he's going to put that kind of onus on himself. And the positions are up for grabs, man. And so far, he's taken it.
The side with that is, I'd say Sterling's played some of his best football for Chelsea on the right wing. Cole Palmer's probably best position is on the right wing. Where does that put Madueke? That's this. I just don't like the signing in terms of how they've built the squad. It feels like they've got a lot of similar players, and like you're saying, they're playing for positions. Hence, why they could have spent the money elsewhere. They could have spent that £45 million on maybe. Some more fullbacks maybe, which they've got this season.
In the central area, they don't really have like a creative 10 at the moment. They've got Enzo, they've got Lavia, they've got Caicedo, and that's where I feel like he can almost be a missing link and maybe move him a little bit more centrally, let Sterling and Madueke play out wide.
Especially in the absence of Nkunku, who's still not that fit yet.
So what happens when Nkunku comes back? Where does he play then?
Yeah.
That's my concern. 45 million for a player that's not number one, that might not start in a number of positions would be my concern.
Go on then, where are we putting him?
Well, you guys get
disagreement.
Right? We've fallen out.
Yeah. I think it's a hit.
I'd agree.
I think it's a hit so far.
I also would say his age is only 21 years of age.
Players.
I think the improvement he's had over the few years, I think
since he's come into the side, he's been one of their better players.
I agree.
Cole Palmer.
Nicolas Jackson, you've got next, Chelsea. Now, this is someone there's been a lot of talk
split
about,
opinions.
Massively split opinions online, because we have seen both sides of his game. Fuad, let's come to you first with this one.
I'm going hit, because I think for the price of what you're getting, I don't think anybody was expecting a 20-goal-a-season striker.
32 mil, I think it was.
Yeah, 32 million, not the biggest money, but I think technically very, very good. His link-up play, his speed is electric as well. And I said this season, I think he's going to be almost what Darwin Núñez was last season, that player that everybody says, if he gets it together, he could be a problem. And you see it. Now he's starting to get 1 or 2 goals, if that kind of does help his confidence. But I think he's got all the raw tools to be a top player. Whether it's going to happen this season or not is maybe where you question. But I think long-term it'll be a hit.
Dave, do you agree?
I'm going to go with a miss. I think for right now, what Chelsea need is they need a 9 that's a little bit more clinical. In terms of expected goals, underperforming more than any other player within the league. Should have scored an extra 2 goals with the chances he's had. I like where he's getting into. I like his movement. I think he's got lots of potential. It just feels like right now Chelsea need a proper number 9 that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. So I would say it's a miss on that fact that he's just not taking the chances that's being created for him right now.
So you're putting him in miss then?
I'd say miss.
OK, tough one, isn't it?
You're cool, I went with Palmer.
I think the problem we have here with Dave, he reels up so many stats that we feel like we can't really... We gave you the last one for us, so we'll give Dave this one. But I think it's worth pointing out it's early in his Chelsea career.
and
It's
scored
also
goals,
worth putting into a bit of perspective. He has scored 3 goals. A lot of fans are very excited about him. So just to give it a bit of balance.
I think long-term he's got great potential. It's just right now he's not putting the ball in the back of the net, and that's his job.
OK.
Simple as that.
Next up.
Oh, Beto. I love a bit of Beto. Beto's one of those players that you're doing like your stat searches and you're like, I want to find a target man, good in the air, scores goals, runs the channels. This was your guy. So unfortunately, it's going to be a hit for me, independent of what happens after that.
Is that the only reason? Because Dave has found him on stats websites.
You see, I've got him as a bit of a miss, I'll be honest with you. I think he's got the profile to be almost the typical Premier League bruiser striker in the bottom half, but I think he lacks the goals, and I think that's where Everton, if you see, they created a lot of chances this year, but they're not able to put them away. And I would say in that bottom third of the league, you always need a striker who's going to get you 10 to 12 goals. Can you confidently say Beto's going to get that this year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to back my boy.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when he's fit, do they play together? How do they line up in front? I think Everton have been much better than I was expecting, particularly over the last month. I think they've been really impressive. Those results against Brentford, Aston Villa in the Cup. So how do they play together?
I think you can play them together, yeah. I think you can play them together if you wanted to be more offensive, playing a two-man strike force.
That's a proper Sean Dyche strike force, isn't
it? It is really nice. But the issue we've got, Decore's form this season's been really good.
25 mil, Beto.
I think it's a hit.
Here's a question for you. Well, how we sometimes do this. Are either of you on the fence with it? Like, are either of you happy to concede?
Yeah, I'm happy to, because I do actually quite like his.
There you go.
Okay, then, there we go.
Let's
Stick it on a hit.
If you want to put him
next one, I don't think we need to spend too long on this one. Dominik Szoboszlai,
big miss, right? Terrible signing. Doesn't provide anything.
He's a hit, right?
Undisputed.
Yeah.
Can we just spend? Sorry, just spend a bit of time on Szoboszlai though, because I think he has kind of earned that. He has kind of earned that right this season, where. I mean, for £60 million, that buyout clause feels
honestly
amazing bit of business.
You talk about kind of players who've come in. That Liverpool midfield needed a rejuvenation. He's come in and almost single-handedly give that. And I think not just going forward as well, the industry does
he's
tracking back. He does the dog work as well. And I think a little bit sometimes when I even see Man City who signed Matheus Nunes. Imagine they had got Gvardiol and Szoboszlai at the same time. How different that could have been.
Time in for the next magnet.
Yeah, no, I think, with Szoboszlai, his ability to play both ways, he's that next sort of phase of Liverpool midfielder. We've seen the industry with Henderson, with Wijnaldum. Now we've got someone that's technical as well as that, which is incredible. Next up, Gvardiol.
Yeah,
I'd straight away hit. Unbelievable footballer,
special player.
Great signing.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw at the World Cup as well what he can do on the world stage at such a young age.
Apart from against Lionel Messi, but everyone's got
goal. Come on, it's hard.
Oof. Next up,
do we want to do this? I think we skip this one. Is that all right, guys?
Who have you got? Reveal to the camera.
Andre Onana. Where are you at, Dave?
I'll let you go first.
Man United fan yourself.
It upsets me a little bit. His levels last season in the Champions League were incredible. Yeah. His post-shot expected goals numbers were the best I've ever seen. This season, they've been pretty poor. He's conceded one more goal than he should have done in terms of the shots he's faced. He needs a bit of confidence. At the moment, what's super frustrating as a Man United fan is you look at the goal they conceded last week, where there was a mistake from Casemiro, then another mistake from Casemiro, then there's a mistake from Lindelof, there's another mistake from Lindelof, and then Andre Onana kind of chucks it in his own net.
Yeah.
The team need to come around and the team need to stop those types of actions to put an Onana in these situations. But he's not been what we expected, so it's a miss.
Thoughts, Fred?
I do think he will be a hit. I think there's a lot of work on the coaching, but right now's a miss.
That's where I can kind of understand it. I think right now you kind of have to say it's a miss because of all the gaffes that have kind of been self-inflicted with some of them as well. But in the long term, I do think in that game for sure, the defence definitely got him into some jammy spots. But I do think overall what he's going to bring to that defensive line and the team in terms of distribution.
Just seems a little bit low on confidence as well, because we know there's a great goalkeeper in there. Excellent Inter Milan, wasn't he? He was excellent at Ajax as well. He's proven himself time and time again. So I don't really need to prove anything, but he's just maybe a little bit low on confidence.
It's the kind of goalkeeper I feel like can completely revolutionise a team. You saw that with Alisson when he came in. You saw that with Edison when he came in. You get a top goalkeeper in top confidence, he can change that whole
The only worry is the Claudio Bravo situation where he came to the Premier League, great goalkeeper.
But that was always a bit more of a stopgap, wasn't it? Low cost, Barcelona, ageing out.
Very, very good at that point, though. It was similar with Andre Onana, where you're like, he's a top keeper, he should do it. Yeah, so I think Andre Onana long term will be a success. But
Next up, you've got another Man United player.
Mason Mount.
Splits opinions.
I'd say
when he's been fit, he's been great.
It's worth pointing out he's had injuries as well.
It would be a hit with how he's performed in those games. But then the fee, considering that he would have been available on a free transfer the summer after, that would put a question mark in. Did Manchester United need a player of Mason Mount's style? They probably should have bought Amrabat first and then signed Mason Mount at the back end of the window. I don't think it's anything to do with Mount, but I think the club have had a bit of a stinker there from a director of football perspective or a recruitment perspective with Mount. I think he's a great player. I think he'll be great for Manchester United. But everything outside of him, I think, is a little bit...
But we can only judge him on how he's been as a signing since he's got there, right? Like that, he can't affect any of that stuff. And for me, as a Manchester United fan, obviously not great with the injury record, but when he's been on field, he's been consistently one of our best players. Works so hard, technically really good, creates chances.
He's just one of those underappreciated players, I feel like. All the time, I just feel like he does the right things, but sometimes has these kind of rough moments or rough patches of form where everybody just seems to get on him. But I think he's actually going to be a top signing for United.
But right now, where would you put him?
Right now, I'd put him as a hit still. I think, as you said, early on he had a couple of injuries, and since then it's kind of been a real mishmash team, and he's come in and I felt like...
OK, here. As Dave picked these magnets, we've got a lot of Man United players.
We've got some Spurs players coming up, don't you worry.
They'll be in it. Don't you worry about that.
I like him.
Absolute hit. 3 goals in the Champions League. No players scored more. The guy looks great.
Still only 20
young,
as well.
So young. So for Manchester United to put all the shoulder of the goal scoring on him is a little unfair. But he looks really good. He looks like he's going to be a great signing.
Physical.
What sort of level are we talking about here? Because he does look very good, I agree. Big
level.
price tag. But what sort of level do you think he can get to?
I think he can get to a level that's probably just below Haaland in that sense. What he's got that's very similar to Haaland is that sheer pace from deep.
Yeah.
We've not seen it yet, but the way that he accelerates through the middle when he's off the ball, it's Haaland-esque. And they are different players in a sense of Rasmus Hojlund is a lot more technical. He's a dribbler versus Haaland that's probably more of that just back post goal scorer. They are different players, but the potential is there to be at a similar level.
Yeah.
I do think he's a quality player. I think so far he's been physically, as you said, he's been showing a lot as well, his hold-up play. And I want to actually see more of that kind of other side to his game where he's kind of running in behind. Because you saw that at kind of Atlanta where he's scoring different types of goals. And what was it, 9 goals in 20 games and not all of them were starts. And so far in the Champions League, he's looked the part as well. So I think he's given United like a nice focal point that they can build around that. Martial, Rashford, those types of profiles couldn't give them.
And it's also a young signing. It's an exciting signing. This is what Manchester United should build their entire club off, is 20-year-olds. That's what it is. Busby, Ferguson, young players.
OK, stick him up. Next one, we'll do the last 2. Next one's James Maddison. I mean, Fuad.
Yeah, got to be a miss.
He said signing of the season for Rice, but that is the signing.
That is the bargain of the season, surely. I mean, the price that Tottenham paid for what we've got is phenomenal, isn't it?
40 million, but we sent Harry Winks the other way for 10 million, so technically it's 30 million. I mean, 30 million for James Maddison, what he's done.
Football fan maths that was there, just in
absolutely.
I loved it.
Get him on the board here.
Get him on the board.
What a player, man.
Yeah, unbelievable. So excited about
And then
Maddison.
finally we've got...
James Ward-Prowse.
The other contender for signing of the season.
Perfect. If West Ham wanted to create a midfielder, this would be the guy. Set pieces, work rate, great on the ball, got an eye for a goal, clinical.
I mean,
Should be in the England squad?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Just for the sake of having that extra weapon, I feel like, or for on set pieces, you've got to have a player like that.
Beautiful technique for striking the ball, isn't he? What a technique.
Yeah.
OK.
Are there any changes you'd make, last-minute changes, very quickly? Now you look at that, and because there's got a lot of hits.
Jackson and Onana, I want to slide to hit, but I can understand
list, and
why.
we love the positivity.
Yeah.
Because I do actually think this summer has been a lot of good business for a lot of good clubs.
Well, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think at home about that list. That is their hit or miss for the summer signings.